So a year ago, I was standing before you as your president-elect. What I didn't know was what the next year had in store for me. You see, 2 weeks after the convention, I was forced to face a divorce. And in those dark days, I realized that I had been running someone else's race. And so, what did I decide to do? Was to run a race, both figuratively and literally. I literally decided to run a marathon. I've always been a runner, but I'd never done a marathon, either because of illness, injury, pregnancy, life. Something always got in the way. So I decided that I needed to run my race, and I needed to start taking care of myself and making my training a priority. And what did that mean? That meant me investing time in my training. And folks, I'm a runner, but I'm not fast, so those long runs took hours to run. And that meant me waking up at 4 in the morning. And I like mornings, but 4 in the morning, that's just a little too early for me. And it also meant me making sure I packed my running shoes wherever I went, particularly on my NAPABA travels. I took some of my best long runs in Austin, San Francisco, New York, and in Indianapolis. And in fact, Indy has one of the most inspiring trails. But I also realized that I needed my support system. I needed to make sure I was mentally strong. And so the first part of my support team was my counselor. Yes, my counselor, who got me through this past year. She taught me that I needed to learn how to ride the waves of emotions, to just be. I also relied upon my friends. My hype woman, my shoulders to cry on, my confidants, my tribe. You know who you are, and thank you. And my family. There are days that I didn't think I could ever get out of bed. Never mind run 26.2 miles. My kids, Taylor and Ryan, my 7 and 2-year-old, they're the joy of my life. And I'm so blessed to have my mom and my dad and my brother and sister-in-law who are here today to support me. Thank you. And just when life seemed too tough to handle, I had each one of you. I had NAPABA, a welcome distraction from my reality. So thank you, NAPABA. And I stand here proudly because of the support to say that I finished my first marathon. And now I tell you this story not because I think I'm unique or my story's unique, but because I know that each one of you are running your own race. Or perhaps you're just running someone else's race. And it's time. It's time for us to start running our own race. And you don't have to do it alone. But we have to do it, we're being real. And what does real look like? Well, it's certainly not this at the finish line. What real looks like is when you're at mile 25 and you don't think that you can run another step. When you have run 25 miles and you have 1.2 left to go. That's what it looks like. And so now it's time for us to start being real with each other, to have real dialogues, real conversations, so we can really be there for each other. So let's have that dialogue. For NAPABA, I don't know what the road ahead of us is going to look like. I don't know what challenges, obstacles we'll have to overcome. But I can tell you this, I know how I feel about NAPABA, and I know how NAPABA makes me feel. And after this past week, I remember my first convention. I've got to imagine it's probably like yours. It's inspirational, seeing so many accomplished Asian Pacific American attorneys. You've got trailblazers and best under 40. But for me, it was even more profound. You see, I'm an Asian adoptee. I was raised in a Caucasian family. I went to school in South Carolina. It's a small town, and I went to law school in another small town in Ohio, all predominantly white. And so like many of you, I was faced with racial slurs, discrimination. But at the same time, I also had identity struggle because I was told that I wasn't Asian enough. I wasn't really Asian because I was adoptee. So when I went to my first convention and I was welcomed unconditionally, I knew I belonged. It was transformational, and I wanted more. And so now as I stand before you as your president, I want more for each one of you, and I want more for NAPABA. So what does that look like? There's always something that's going to impede the progress of NAPABA. So this year, we need to get our priorities straight. And this year, the board has committed to creating a strategic plan that's focused on each one of you and our community. We also know that next year, this upcoming year, is a big year. And we need each one of you to be the voice of the community. You are all uniquely situated to do that. As we saw in the Fred Korematsu reenactment, we need to be more like Fred. We need to start speaking up, standing up, stop repeating history. We need to be courageous, and we need to be unafraid. But we also need support. And that first comes with our staff. I knew we had amazing staff. Folks always told us about this amazing staff, but this past year, working hand in hand with them, they're being my handlers, my meeting planners, they get things done. They're the glue of this organization. And so thanks to Navdeep, to Peng, to Priya, and to Robin. And we couldn't do this without financial support. And so thank you to all of our sponsors. This year we hit record numbers. And I'd be remiss not to thank my employer, Nationwide. I have my colleagues, my friends. I've got our chief legal officer, many of his team, all here. Frequently I get asked, how are you able to do this as an in-house counsel? And I tell them because of Nationwide, because of the investment they've made for me. So thank you. And last but not least, we can't do this without each one of you. But we need the whole you, the unique you, all of you. So we've learned today and throughout this week about health and self-care. And it's time that we start taking care of ourselves, because how are we going to take care of others if we can't take care of ourselves? So what does that look like? That means that we need to think about how we define success. It can't be about the billable hours. It can't just be about the amount of little sleep that you get, or about the sacrifices that you make for your own personal health and the detriment to your personal relationships. We need to redefine success. What is that going to look like for you? Who's your tribe? And how are you going to make sure you're there to cross that finish line? So as I stand here today, this year isn't about me and what I'm going to do as president. This year is about each one of you. So when you leave this convention, rest up, take care of yourself, because we've got work to do, and we need the best of you. Thank you. I'm proud to be your president. I look forward to working with you.